How's it going, everyone? What you're going to see today is a quick rush map in the new Silk Road DLC. Well, I don't even think we can call it new anymore. The new Silk Road, or the DLC map Silk Road. And what I wanted to do is talk about some of the rush problems and some of the great settings I have for rush that make rush great. It's definitively my favorite game mode in the Battlefield 4 series, but it suffered a bit in Battlefield 4, and I'll break down those stats why. But first, what you'll see in the background is some defense, and I'm in the tank. And I definitively do pretty well in it, but the differences are I went with a bit of a different loadout than one I suggested in my tank tutorial, and I'll break down the loadout and why I'm using them first before I break down rush mode. And in the back you'll see me using the sabot shell, and I've used it a lot recently. And the sabot shell is basically a shell without an explosive payload, but it travels at an increased velocity, so it has less drop. And I find the sabot shell actually, in terms of actual, shell drop, emulates an awful lot like Battlefield 3, so my comfort level there is pretty high with it, and that's why I like it. The HE shell is nice against other armor. The problem being is it has an increased amount of drop and other issues associated with it. The AP shell is a balance between, but it has more drop, so it takes more getting used to. But I do use the sabot shell. Of course, I use the coaxial HMG. And of course, active protection. There's a difference though. IR smoke and active protection to me are the only two that I'd ever use. IR smoke would be really nice to break locks from infantry that have laser guided lock-ons, or say, because you'll see, and that jet in the back is extremely pesky in this map because there's little to nowhere to take cover, and you know if he's good that he's going to be going after the tanks the entire time, which he did in this map. I think he gets me once or twice. And he's a nightmare to absolutely take out. So that's the problem with this map, is that there's little to no cover for tanks. And if you're not working as a team, well, good luck. Yeah, those jets are going to absolutely feast on you. But active protection is the reason why I chose to use it. It has the longest reload time, but it does take out any missiles that they're trying to shoot at me from above. And it also is able to take out the quick strafing bursts that he uses an awful lot. So you notice in the back I'm keeping my eye on him at all times, because I know in his strafing runs he's going to be coming for me. So you have to make sure you're ready in terms of active protection. If you have a guy that's willing to repair your tank, as I did in this round, you'll do quite well. If you don't, you definitively have to play more defensive. You can't let him sneak up on you. The other issue too is you'll see on the side, my teammates do a pretty good job of holding them off there though. A lot of the infantry on the ground there tend to use RPGs or other laser guided lock-ons. So it's in this case I did, like I told you, I used active protection. But if that was the case, where you have someone that's going to be using an awful lot of lock-on style weapons, the IR smoke would be more beneficial than active protection would be. But again, if the jet's going to be focused on you, then you have the best of both worlds, taking out projectiles other than the law with active protection. But yeah, sabot shell, coaxial HMG, and active protection are what I'm using for this loadout. I always go with zoom optics, and I chose to go with auto loader instead of reactive armor, and the reason being because obviously reactive armor isn't like it was in Battlefield 3, where it was 4 shots around that you, as long as you rotated your tank, that you could absorb more shots. This one, reactive armor just reduces the chance and sort of it takes the bite off the rounds. What it does is basically, it absorbs some of the shock, requiring hits to deal higher damage to count as critical. But I've noticed for the most part, a lot of the times where you get in tank battles, if you make a mistake and he hits you in the back of your tank or the side, it's going to make you low power or disabled anyway. So I figured, let's go with auto loader and let's just deal as much DPS as humanly possible in my encounters, and that's what I chose to go with, especially in this round, because dealing with other tanks or trying to, well, take out enemy dirt bikes or anything of the sort's nice, even though they wouldn't need it. More DPS is nice in a situation where you have a repairman, or you feel on average you need that more DPS for tanks. But the difference is, like I was saying, that was my tank loadout for this, and I found it to be effective, balancing it between taking out, and of course you notice I'm pillaring that side sand hill, because I know the tanks for the most part are going to be coming from directly in front of me. So as long as I'm staying back toward the one MCOM, because one's already gone, then I can deal with the tanks that come up, especially if I have a repairman. And hopefully, if my teammates are good, and there's the jet that eventually gets me, if you're able to consistently rely on the fact that your teammates on the right are going to be taking out anyone coming in for infantry, then that's a good team and that's good balance. That'll be great success. What I did want to talk about quickly, as I alluded to earlier, and it finally gets to this point, is the differences in Rush and Battlefield 4. I find the maps have a lot more choke points, or at least the MCOM placement in terms of where they're being placed on the maps just aren't the same as what they were in Battlefield 3. And don't get me wrong, Battlefield 3 had its problems as well. But I find on average, yeah, a lot of the MCOM placements are in really awkward spots. And the ticket counts for a lot of servers aren't that great. So if you're playing in 64-man servers, I find on average, if it remains at the starting default 75 tickets, those matches are over in 5 minutes. By the time, like if you die once or twice as an attacker, that's it. You might not get another kill the rest of the match if it ends up going long. If you end up with a higher ticket count, but I have a hard time finding a lot of servers that have that higher ticket count, I probably would find it would be more balanced. But as of late, and this is the server that I'm currently playing in right now, as of late, the 48 or even 32-man servers, and I know a lot of people will say, but it's PC, 64-man. If you're playing in 48 or 32-man Rush servers, it's a lot more fun, and I find I get a ton more kills because the matches are more prolonged than if you were to go into, say, a 64-man server. It's far easier, and it's far more balanced that way, dependent on the map. There are a few, though, on average, that I almost always win or always lose, because I feel that attackers are still... well, I feel on average Rush is weighted more toward the defenders, because a lot of the time, a lot of those guys will equip a SOFLAM or something laser guided to help out the team. They take out the vehicles, and then the infantry just gets mowed down because the enemy team has more high spots to actually take you out, or anything of that nature. The problem being, of course, that we can't definitively prove that point because maybe it's just the teammates aren't rushing, teammates aren't attacking, and that's more of the fault than maybe the map design is. But it'd be really hard to prove that because team imbalance is a bigger factor than that. But on average, I do feel that, yes, my tip would be to you that if in Rush was your favorite style and you find that 64-man servers aren't really working for you as much in Battlefield 3, try the 48 and 32-man servers, because this one's a 48 with double tickets, and it was a pretty, even though they didn't get past the first set of MCOMs, as you can see, it was a lot of action, very high paced, and on average, and again, that jet gets me, but when I play in servers that are actually pretty decently balanced, I find on average that same joy and fun that I got from playing in Rush mode in Battlefield 3 that was missing for the most part in Battlefield 4 for me has returned. I do find it to be incredibly fun in these double ticket 48-man servers. Maybe if it was double ticket in 64, but I haven't found any of those, the fun would come back as well. I'd have to see if that actually plays out. But again, we'll have to see if that actually does happen. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the differences, and that's my different tank loadout for you as well if you do feel like you need to make some changes or improvements. But it does change per map and situation, of course. Hope you enjoyed. See you later.